You don't need a traumatic childhood, a full-blown crisis, or a tragic love story to ruin your mental health. All you need is a smartphone, some internet access, and the ability to ignore red flags, especially your own. Because the fastest way to self-destruct isn't dramatic. It's quiet, repetitive, addictive. Most importantly, it feels kind of good while you're doing it. You're not in a breakdown. You're just slowly erasing your internal stability while calling it self-care. Let's start with the easiest one, doom scrolling. You hop online, just for a second, and somehow it's 2 hours later, your jaw is clenched, your thumb is sore, and you now know 14 different ways the world might end, none of which you can personally fix. Psychologically, doom scrolling hijacks your reward system. You're chasing novelty, drama, and emotional spikes. Your brain gives you little hits of dopamine every time you see something new, but it also floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone that turns your anxiety into a hobby. The result? You feel overstimulated and underrested. Your attention span is melting, your sleep is trash, and your baseline mood is now set somewhere between existential dread and low battery mode. And because your brain doesn't like discomfort, it tells you to scroll more for relief from the discomfort the scrolling just caused. That's called a feedback loop. It's also called hell. You went online to relax, and now you've convinced yourself you're a failure, a fraud, and somehow responsible for geopolitical instability because you didn't share a Canva infographic fast enough. That's not information. That's nervous system terrorism disguised as keeping up with the world. And the worst part? You'll do it again tomorrow. You turn down plans because you need to recharge, respect, but then you do it again and again. And now it's been 3 weeks. You haven't left your room, and the only conversation you've had was with a customer support chatbot who also ghosted you. This isn't healing, it's avoidance. There's a massive psychological difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is intentional and restorative. Isolation is chronic, passive, and slowly turns your brain into a damp crawl space full of distorted thoughts and existential mildew. Here's the science. Humans have something called the social buffering hypothesis. Basically, we handle stress better when we have people around us. Real people. Not your cat, not your TikTok algorithm, not that fake Russian model trying to convince you you're soulmates. When you withdraw from your social circle long enough, your brain stops hearing feedback from reality and starts feeding itself whatever nonsense it can cook up. That's how rumination loops form. You obsess over stuff that doesn't matter and spiral into imaginary arguments where you still lose. And of course, you're protecting your peace. That's the trendy label we slap on emotional shutdown. But guess what? Peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from connection, even when it's messy. Avoidance coping is one of the biggest predictors of depression. The more you dodge the things that stress you out, texts, calls, invitations, the more power those things gain over your emotional state. Your brain starts treating basic interaction like it's a bear attack. So no, you're not an introvert on a healing journey. You're just slowly ghosting every stabilizing influence in your life while convincing yourself it's boundaries. You're not protecting your energy. You're cutting your own social lifeline and calling it growth. You build elaborate routines. You spend hours optimizing your Notion dashboards. You make mood boards, vision boards, and healing playlists. You light candles and take deep breaths and tell yourself this is the year it all changes. But spoiler, it won't. Because you're not actually fixing anything. You're just redecorating your mental downfall. This is called the illusion of progress. Your brain rewards the feeling of doing something, even when it's completely useless. A little dopamine hit from organizing your goals, it feels productive, but it's not the same as actually doing them. And over time, your brain starts craving the idea of growth more than growth itself. Even worse, you do one thing, just one, and convince yourself the day was a win. You went to the gym, nice. Now you've earned 6 hours of scrolling, 2 canceled responsibilities, and a shame nap. You didn't rebuild your life, you just lifted weights and lied to yourself about momentum. You're not healing, you're curating the vibe of someone who heals. You don't want to face your actual problems. You want to design a color-coded chart about them and hope it makes you feel in control. And don't worry, the internet is here to help. Your feed is filled with soft life TikToks and 12-step spiritual regimens from people who live in Bali and haven't had a real emotion since 2019. But their content feels amazing, especially when you're too mentally checked out to do anything real. It's procrastination disguised as self-improvement, a content loop made of journaling prompts, sunset montages, and affirmations you repeat like a mantra while your nervous system quietly dissolves. This is how self-help becomes a coping mechanism, not to grow, but to avoid collapse. You're not climbing out of the hole, you're hanging curtains in it. Your brain doesn't want discomfort, it wants clarity, control, and dopamine. So it gives you a shortcut. Plan to get better, then repeat over and over until your whole personality is trying. Meanwhile, your mental health is still circling the drain, now with a pretty aesthetic filter on top. All of this feels good. That's the problem. You're not just spiraling, you're getting rewarded for it. Every scroll, every skipped obligation, every time you bail on plans and call it self-love, your brain gives you a cookie. Not a real cookie, just a hit of dopamine. Enough to say, nice, let's do that again. And you do. Because your brain isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you repeat whatever gave you relief, even if it's slowly dismantling you. This is called behavioral addiction. You're not addicted to the gym, the apps, or the content. You're addicted to escaping being alone with your own thoughts. The second things go quiet, your brain panics and begs for stimulation. Anything to drown out that tiny whisper going, hey, are we okay? You're not okay. You just got really good at performing the idea of okayness with filtered wellness, false progress, digital companionship, and a highlight reel of micro-coping mechanisms that look productive, but are really just emotional numbing disguised as growth. You avoid discomfort. You chase validation. You confuse planning with action. You cut people off. You call it clarity. You scroll until your nervous system short circuits and call it rest. And the scary part? It works, temporarily. Because the fastest way to destroy your mental health isn't with one catastrophic decision. It's death by relief. Tiny choices, day after day, that feel like healing but cost you your entire foundation. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It just slowly replaces your real life with a quieter, emptier one that feels easier to control. Until one day you wake up, deeply self-aware, vaguely spiritual, 5 years into your healing journey, and somehow still stuck at the starting line.